So as a local wholesaler myself, Google PPC is honestly just a really, really good way to get motivated sellers completely inbound for really not that much money for the quality of motivated sellers you actually receive. It's one of my favorite ways. Obviously I run a marketing agency, the real estate investor SEO guide.com. Throughout this video, if you want me to run your Google ads for you rather than you doing it yourself, feel free to click the link in the description. I'd be happy to chat with you throughout the process if this is just a little bit too much for you. But if you want to go the free route and you want to do it yourself, I'm going to start to finish how I would set up my first campaign if I was in your shoes. Obviously, in Google Ads, we want to make sure that we are ranking at the top as much as possible for the cheapest cost for the right keywords so that motivated sellers only are clicking on our ads. We don't want to be running all this stuff. We don't want people who are looking up houses for sale for our ad to show up and they click on it, because in my mind, that's a wasted click. You maybe could get a motivated seller that way, but that's not how the way I run my stuff. I want to make sure we are getting consistent quality clicks ranking at the top as much as possible for the cheapest cost, because at the end of the day, that's what's going to get us really good motivated sellers that make us a lot of profit. So without further ado, let's get to the video. All right, so here we are in my Google Ads campaign. So it's very easy. You just have to go into ads.google.com. You're going to make a simple account if you haven't made one already, and you're going to go in here and simply click start a new campaign. It may try to do it for you automatically, but what I recommend, since you are watching this video, make your campaign manually. It's going to ask you if you want us to make the campaign and just do a smart campaign, all this stuff. Just watch the video, do your own manual campaign if that's what you want to do, because I'm going to basically walk you through exactly how to do it, because that way, if you run all those different stuff, you're going to spend a lot of wasted dollars on a lot of crap, because Google's really good at taking your money if you allow it to. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to click here on leads, because obviously if you do sales, website traffic, all this, usually if you choose any of these, like website traffic and all this other stuff, it's really good at getting you website traffic, but not leads. So obviously the whole goal of us doing this is to get motivated sellers. So we're going to go ahead and choose the lead objective. So then from here, this is what we're going to use for conversion. Obviously, you want to make sure that you have a few things set up. In here, I already have a few set up, and there's a lot of videos on YouTube exactly how to set up your conversions. So basically, you just need to make sure that you have a website form connected and a phone number connected from the website that you have created and the landing page that you're going to use to actually get these motivated sellers coming in. And so, with that being said, there's a lot of videos, and I can actually link to a really, really good video below that'll show you exactly how to set up conversions. That will help you out quite a bit if you don't know how to do this. But simply, you just want to make sure you add a lead form and a phone number. That way, anytime Google tracks all the data, you want to make sure what a lead is good. Typically, a form fill out or a phone call that is longer than 60 seconds, in my mind, is a lead. And once we tell Google that this is a lead, then it's going to help you down the long run when you're trying to do bidding and all this different stuff for when you're actually trying to get motivated sellers and you're setting up your campaign so that you can actually leave it to one cost. And every time you get a lead, it's going to cost you money, obviously. So you want to make sure that Google knows what a lead actually is. So that's the next thing. So you're going to go continue on. Like I said, I'll link a video below on exactly how to set up these conversions with Google Ads. So we're going to continue on, and we're going to select a campaign type. Now, there's a lot of different ones here, and this isn't a conversation for today because we're just here to do target motivated sellers. And my favorite way is to do just a search campaign. The reason being is because I want to make sure our campaign is showing up at the top for the highest quality motivated seller key terms. And when you choose performance max, demand gen, display, all this stuff is just all kind of a bunch of crap at this point. Down the road, if you have it dialed in and a year from now and you have everything dialed in where you're the guy in whatever market you're in, then it's something to look into. But honestly, for 99% of us, a search campaign is going to be the best because you're only attracting the people who are actually searching up some sort of key term that your campaign is aligned with. And that's where the quality of these leads comes in, where all the rest of these are going to be a lot less quality. So that's why I like to go with search campaigns. So obviously in here, it's going to have the ways you'd like to reach your goal, and I'm going to say phone calls and lead form submissions. Obviously, I can put in my company phone number in here, And then you can also do lead form submissions that we also set up last time, but you just want to make sure you choose these two, because otherwise Google will, if you allow Google to tell it all these other things, website visits and all this stuff, it's going to kind of dwindle down your campaign, or I guess the better word would be dilute your campaign a little bit. So you want to make sure you're just doing phone calls and lead form submissions. All right, so we are going to continue doing, we're going to start new. We're going to continue on. So bidding, this is something probably the last thing that I do. Honestly, in this beginning stages, it's something that I would not even worry about at this point, because the reason you're trying to maximize conversions, all these bidding options, Google's basically trying to help you out with their bidding. Obviously, there's a lot of different ways you can do it. There's a lot, this is where it gets into a huge topic of bidding. And honestly, this is towards the end of the video, we'll get into this, but I'm just going to go with conversions for now. And I wouldn't start with this, but we're going to get to, once the campaign is actually set up, that is where we actually will worry about bidding. Now, campaign settings. This is something where, it's setting up your campaign. If you're not watching the correct video, luckily you're watching mine, that is not going to allow you to spend way more money than you need to. Unselect both of these. It's going to tell you expand your reach and all this use display expansion, all this whatever, and that is just Google doing its job and doing why it's a multi-billion-dollar company, is to make you spend way more money than you actually need to. So that I'm going to uncheck both of those, because those will not help us at all. Now, obviously, I'm in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. So what I typically like to do as a real estate wholesaler, so, there's metro markets. Like, I'm in Minnehaha County, is the county of my area. Obviously, Sioux Falls is the biggest area, or excuse me, the biggest city. But there is all kinds of other suburbs, like a lot of other places. There's all kinds of suburbs outside of the cities, even small towns, bigger towns. But I like to do a county-wide campaign, because what this allows us to do is run PPC in a lot less expensive areas that actually get us really, really good deals. Because as we all know, I mean, there's small towns out there, but around the counties that we do deals in, at least where I'm at, and I know a lot of other counties, that people are moving out to these smaller towns for whatever reason, because of cost of living, whatever the case may be. So there's still a lot of money to be made from these. So typically what I like to do is I like to do a county, and I would like to do Minnehaha County is where I am at. So that's the county that I'm in. Obviously, the reach is much higher than just going after the biggest city in my area. A little bit of a cheat code. If you are, a little bit more on the budget-friendly side, maybe don't target your top city. So what I would do is I would do a county-wide campaign, and then in here, we'll talk about this in a second, in here later on, you can exclude your biggest city. So for example, if I was on a huge budget and all I had was a few $100 a month, I would do Minnehaha County and remove the biggest city in our area, which is Sioux Falls, which is probably 70% of this reach right here. And so that's just a little hack for you if you're on a budget. But I always like to target countywide, because there's still a lot of deals to be had just outside of our major city, because our major city is going to be where all of your competitors are at, paying the highest cost per click with everything like that. So that's why I like county. So you're targeting all the other small towns for honestly a really, really cheap cost. So when that actually happens, they'll find you. Location options. You want to do presence as people in or regularly in, because what this means basically, who's shown interest, is people who maybe are outside of the area. I don't like this very much, because it's going to pretty much double your budget, or maybe a little bit less than that. But I only like people who are in or regularly in or included locations. It's going to save you a lot of money, because basically what that allows us to do is people who are actually looking up that search term and they are located in the area that you're targeting. So for example, Minnehaha County, it's going to actually pull up that ad for them. So say they're in, for example, a few states away from me is Wisconsin. Say they're in Wisconsin looking up sell my house for cash, maybe in Sioux Falls or whatever the case may be. You don't want those ads showing up if people are somehow related to Sioux Falls. I would just keep it like this for now. Down the road, if you want more lead flow or something, that's maybe a little adjustment you could make. Now, in languages, obviously English, I'm not a huge fan of going outside of that. This is something new they just added, so the EU political ads, we're obviously going to say no, and I don't plan on using this account to run EU political ads. Audience segments, this isn't necessarily something I would worry about too much. Basically, I would just do real estate. I don't usually like to go too crazy with this. It's nothing that I get too worried about as far as that goes. And so I usually just do real estate. It's just something that this isn't really my biggest concern is the audience segments that we're choosing. It's more so the key terms since we are running a search campaign. This doesn't really apply as much. Now, targeting setting for this campaign, it really depends on yours. So don't narrow the reach of your campaign with the option to adjust the bids on the selected segments. Narrow the reach of your campaigns of the select with the option. So I'm just going to choose observation for this one. Obviously, some people go both ways. It's kind of 50-50. Observation will be just fine for you. All of this, there's really nothing crazy. All day ad rotation. Keep everything pretty much the same here. Campaign URL options. Tracking template. So if you have a tracking template, you can put this in here, and it's something that you will be able to add in here. If you want to use, like if you have a carrot URL, you can also put this in here for a tracking template if you want to use this, but Google Ads does pretty good for tracking on everything. No, I will not use AI Max. This is just another way to get your money from you. Final URL. So I'm going to go ahead to my website, and I'm going to do Sioux Empire Home Buyers just for example. We're going to do this. We're going to do this. Well, I tell you what, I'm actually going to skip this part because we are going to make our own ads. Manually create an ad group. So we're going to skip that part, so my apologies. We're going to skip that part, and the keywords, we're going to go in here. Typically what I like to do is I'm going to use all of, I guess the best key terms to use would be so this is my list of what I usually like to do, and what I would be doing starting out is I would only use exact match key terms. Oh, what just happened here? What just happened? All right, no, that's not what we want to do. So we'll do this. No. Jesus. Oh my God, what is going on? What in the world? All right, so this is what we're going to do right here is you're going to go and you're going to paste your URL or whatever landing page you're going to do. Typically, if you're targeting the entire county, depending on how big your county is, I would use a county page. And then for the biggest cities, I'd make different campaigns for each city. That's a different strategy for a different day, but this is for pretty much your first campaign. So let's get a basics in here. How to sell house fast. And this means this is exact match. So we're going to do this. How to sell a house fast. Want to sell my house quickly. I'm going to also do sell my house as is. Sell house myself online. We're going to do that. Sell my house or my home as is. Cash home buyers. People buy houses. Let's see here. Buy my house fast. Let's see here. Sell property fast. We buy old homes. Move on. And then you can also do, for example, I'm going to do sell my house fast. But you can also do, if you want to get crazy with it, I'm going to do Sioux Falls like the biggest city. If you want to use your city name, that's fine. You can do that. Like I said, I typically would make a different campaign, so this is countywide, and I would typically, you want to use a county, so like for example a Minnehaha County page, and then use whatever landing page you would target the biggest city in. Sioux Falls, I'd do a separate campaign for that itself. So sell my house fast, Sioux Falls, we buy houses, Sioux Falls, sell house cash, cash for houses. We buy houses. Sell my house to investor. Sell my house to flipper. Sell my house now. Sell house fast. I think I might have actually had that in there already. Maybe not. Sell house quickly. All right, so these are the best key terms. You can even copy me right away. So basically, here's the difference. So right in here, if you don't put in the word without these parentheses right here, it's going to be what's called broad match. So if I exit this out right here, this is considered a broad match key term, meaning Google basically gives them the permission to go ahead and use it as a broad key term. So anyone who looks up anything really to do with the house, this is where you get people who are getting traffic or getting clicks from people who are looking for houses for sale, right? Or anything to do with selling a house. You get my point. It could be anything as far as like nothing related to actually selling their house. So the minimum is I would do some sort of phrase match. But for now, if it's my first campaign, if I'm trying to save some money and do some testing, I'm doing exact match. Down the road, that's where you can start adding some phrase match, because then this is going to kind of broaden it up a little bit, open it up. But even with exact match, people think exact match, they have to look up this exact key term in there to actually get their ad to show up. But it's simply not true, because there's a lot of ways. I promise you, Google Ads is really good at making sure you're spending money. So I'm always a big fan of just adding exact match key terms, because I promise you, you're even going to get clicks outside of these key terms. I promise you. So that's the best way to do it right here. So final URL, I'm still going to go ahead and use my landing page here. And then what I'm also going to do is you can add in calls. In here, I believe I should have something so you can add in that figure where you can add in the actual call number. So I would definitely apply that. Then in here in the headlines, this is where it gets a little bit crazy. So this is exactly what I would do. These are all headers that I would use. They get, honestly, just very, very good traction. You don't have to get too crazy with these. You can even copy these if you want to. Typically, what I would like to do is fill out every single one of these. Google Ads allows you 15, so I'm going to take all 15, because what's going to happen is it's going to allow you to be even more relevant compared to all of your other competitors. So we'll go in here. There we go. So we now have maxed out our 15 in description. We're going to use this. And you don't have to get too crazy with these. Obviously, like I said, I'll go back up here so you can actually see what I'm doing, but I want to just get it in here first. And they allow you 4 descriptions. So I'm going to go in here and do that. So then, yeah, you can just see here, it's pretty basic. We pay cash for houses. Sioux Falls #1 house buyer. Sell your home fast. Need to sell fast in Sioux Falls, ? We buy Sioux Falls homes. You get the point. But it's really just a bunch of these. And honestly, it's just based off, you want to make sure your headlines for your ads are very, very relevant, right? And so I would recommend using these. They do a great job for me, as well as the descriptions. You don't have to get too crazy with this, but it does pretty well. So use these headlines, and you can pause it and copy it here if you'd like, or you can go in descriptions here and copy this if you'd like. But yeah, they work pretty well. And like I said, you can also copy the keywords above too. I'm here to help. So I just hate to see people who run Google Ads campaigns and spending way too much money. That's what I don't want. I want to get motivated sellers for the cheapest cost. So then what you're going to do in here is you're going to go in here and add some images. Obviously, these are just generated AI images that I have from wherever. Obviously, I would generally like you to use images that are actual real houses, because if someone in your area, like say if you're in New Mexico or Wisconsin, they're always going to understand what a house from their area looks like. Your conversion rates will, without a doubt, increase if you have multiple images. You don't need to use that many. It can be 5 to 10, maybe, around 5 to 8 images. It really does not need to be anything crazy. Like, for example, like a house like this, a kitchen, whatever the case may be, you don't need to get too crazy with it, but it will significantly increase your conversion rate just because you have images on there. Promise you. Also, in here, site links. So basically what this is when they have an ad actually pulled up, you want to use site links because this will also increase your conversion rate. Basically, it's just site links on the ad where people can look, or it's linked to the other URLs on your website besides your actual landing page. So like the How It Works page, Sell a House, Video Gallery, Blog Center, Contact Us, right? You try to do every single URL that's in your header. That's what I would recommend is putting this in the site links. It's going to increase your conversions as well here a lot. So then the other one that I would like to do is locations. Now what you can do is I would definitely recommend, I'm not going to click in there because I have a lot of client stuff and I don't want to disclose anything, but more asset types, the only other ones that I would do here. I'm not really too big a fan on all the rest of these, but locations. What this is going to allow is it's going to allow basically yourself to be your Google business profile now and to show your address in the actual ad. So now what you can do is when you have a Google business profile, you can link this with your PPC campaign. You can't really choose or pick if you can run ads on a local pack, but I promise you, it definitely is not going to hurt you to have your address in here. It's going to link your profile. People can see your reviews. People are going to see your hours. It'll just help your conversion so much by also adding that just to make sure, especially if you're a local company, because it's going to help you out a lot. This is, like I said, tracking template. This is where you can add all type of stuff. And then in here too, I know there's another spot where we can add this, but what I would like you to also add down the road is, I know it's not in here, I believe, but it's something where what I would like you to do as well is you want to make sure in here, and this is after you probably set it up, is in here, add your logo in here. You're going to want to make sure you have a logo, as well as when you're done, it's going to allow you to add a business name. And so what that's going to do is also increase your conversion rate, because you don't want your ad to look like this right here with the headlines, a description, site links, phone number, address. Great. The finisher is making sure you have a logo and making sure your company name displays right here, because now what you have is you have a real business that's local, and your conversion rate, I promise you, will literally quadruple, multiply, just by having this. If you don't have site links, if you don't have a phone number, if you don't have a profile link to this, and you just have your ad, description, and URL, I promise you, you will do a fraction as good. Just doing that is a simple, free way to get your money to go much, much further. So now what we're going to do is, I'm not going to save this, but this is where we get to budget. Typically, this is where it gets to a little bit different stuff. My rule of thumb is when it goes off of reach. So, for example, we're at campaign settings, and it says $415,000 or 15,000 reach. Budget in here, what I would do is per month, but this is going to say daily, so you want to break it down. But per month, I would typically do $1,500 per 500,000 person in reach. So for example, in Sioux Falls, if a person came to me with a Sioux Falls campaign similar to this, I would simply tell them, yep, around 1,500, maybe 2,000, depending on the month, because obviously we know that some search terms and some stuff, some months are bigger than others, but around $1,500 is the average that I would spend per month to actually get ranked high and compete well if you do everything correctly. So if you were to do 1,500 per 500,000 people, for this example, you divide it by 30 days, it's going to be $50 a day. If you put in $50 a day in here, that's a great starting point, is $1,500 a month per 500,000 people in reach. Then from there, you can really adjust. If you're not ranking as well, you can just, obviously there's other things that you want to make sure you're doing if you're not ranking as well, but budget is the biggest factor of not ranking at the top consistently. And so you may have to raise your budget down the road, but I would always rather start lower and not rank as good right away, and then knowing in my head, okay, I guess I just have to spend more money, because that's the easiest thing to do with Google Ads, is spending more money. But all in all, that is it. That is literally it. So it's checking for errors. It's probably going to mark me for a bunch of errors because I didn't do a lot of stuff. And like I said, this is a lot of stuff here. But if you track this, like I said, if you have any questions, feel free to comment below. Feel free to shoot me a DM on Instagram. I will always answer your questions on there, no problem there. But pretty much it's just going to run through all the stuff that we did, but it's very, very simple. Google Ads is literally the process of making sure that you can get your PPC campaign the highest amount of motivated, quality motivated sellers in your local area for the cheapest cost. And that's literally the game. Get your ad up to the top for as many keywords for as little as possible. So if you found this video helpful today, feel free to shoot me a like, shoot me a subscribe, because I post multiple of these tutorials each and every week on my channel. But like I said, if you'd rather have me run your PPC campaign for you, feel free to click the link in the description and I'd be happy to chat with you. We don't like to charge way too much for this, and it's honestly, if you have a lot of time on your hands, go ahead and give it a try. But if you're like, man, I really just have to get as many motivated sellers as possible, I don't have time to do all this, I'm not a professional at this, feel free to shoot me a message, or you can go to the link in the description, book a call with me, and I'd love to chat with you. But otherwise, thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video, but we'll see you next time.